All right, today we're diving into something really fascinating from our source text, a spiritual phenomenon called the formal locution. It's a deep look into how we think and where inspiration comes from, but it's also a pretty stark warning about the dangers of delusion, so let's get right into it.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever had a thought just pop into your head that felt like it wasn't yours? A perfectly formed sentence, crystal clear, that just appears out of nowhere? It's a pretty wild experience, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. So what's actually going on here? Well, the text we're looking at has a specific name for this, and it lays out some really clear markers that set it apart from, just your regular internal chatter. It's called a formal locution. Kind of sounds technical, right? But let's break it down. Supernaturally produced. That just means it's not coming from your own brain power. Without the use of the senses, you're not hearing it with your ears. And here's the absolute core of it. It feels like someone else is talking, but inside your spirit. You're not thinking the thought, you're receiving it.
Okay, so let's recap the key features. It's totally passive, right? You're not trying to come up with this stuff, it just shows up. But check out that last point, because this is huge. These things often have a powerful kick to them. They can give someone this sudden, intense clarity and make them feel ready to jump into action.
All right, now this is where things get really, really interesting. Because if that voice isn't yours, well, the text says we have to start a serious investigation. We have to figure out where it's coming from.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If it's an outside message, who's the sender? The author lays out two possibilities, and they could not be more different. One is divine, and the other, well, it's diabolical. So, the text gives us this side-by-side comparison of the effects. See the divine ones? They're supposed to make you feel humble, ready to take on something hard. But the diabolical ones, they do the opposite. They puff you up with pride and make selfish things seem super easy and appealing. The whole idea is that you can tell the source by looking at the results, by the fruit it produces in you. Okay, so how on earth are you supposed to tell these apart? Well, the source gives us some clues, and honestly, some of them are pretty surprising. They're not what you'd expect at all. Get this. Here's one of the weirdest clues for spotting a divine message: resistance. You'd think a message from a divine source would feel amazing, right? Like warm and fuzzy? But nope. The author says if you get a command to do something humbling, you might actually feel this huge pushback inside you. And that very struggle, that fight against your own ego, that could be the telltale sign that it's the real deal.
And the text points right to the story of Moses as the perfect example. Remember, he did not want that job. He argued, he made excuses, he resisted. It's the perfect illustration of this idea. The divine command totally clashed with his comfort zone, and that's what created that classic resistance.
So, after laying out the whole phenomenon, the two possible sources, and the clues for telling them apart, the author brings it all home. They deliver a really clear final verdict on what you should actually do if this ever happens to you.
And let me tell you, the verdict is a serious warning. The author makes it crystal clear. Figuring out the source is super, super hard, and the danger of being fooled is huge. In fact, they go as far as to say that if you're someone who actually looks for these kinds of experiences, you are almost guaranteed to be deceived. No way around it. So, what's the game plan? What's the safest way to handle this? The text lays out a very simple three-step process. Step 1, just ignore them. Pay them no attention. Don't sit there and try to figure them out. Step 2, never, ever act on them just because you think you should. And step 3, and this is the most important one, you have to bring it to someone wise and discreet that you trust, and then listen to what they have to say. And just in case there was any confusion, the author lands the plane with this incredibly blunt statement. After all of that analysis, all the nuance, the main takeaway is simple. Pay no heed whatever to them. That's it. The risk of getting it wrong is just way too high.
And all this really leaves us with a bigger question, doesn't it? Yeah, the source is talking about a very specific spiritual experience, but it really makes you think. We live in a world that is just full of noise, constant messages coming at us from all sides. So how do we figure out which voice is the right one to listen to? How do we know what to trust to lead us to what's true and away from what's, well, just delusion?